Most of you here have been confirmed, and you'll remember that in the rite of confirmation, the bishop extends his hands over the candidates and prays for them. And in the last line of that beautiful prayer, he asks God to fill them with the spirit of wonder and awe in God's presence. To fill them with the spirit of wonder and awe in God's presence. And I think that this is a wonderful summary of the spirit of Advent that we're beginning today. Wonder and awe, being awestruck in God's presence, in the knowledge that he has come into our history, into time, into our humanity. Do you remember me last weekend talking about this conversation I had with this lovely young Muslim man at City University about his recognising that Jesus is a prophet, a holy man and a teacher, but the sticking point for him was surely it couldn't be that God had come amongst us. And the wonder, not just that God has come in history, in time, in the past, in Jesus, but that he is going to come again in glory at the end of time. Not just when we die we will meet God, that is part of our Christian faith, but that in our time, in our history, Jesus Christ is going to come again in glory to be present with us and to lift up the whole of creation into God's glory for the judgment and for the end of time. And then the wonder and awe, even now, that through faith, through the sacraments, through the gift of the Holy Spirit, we are standing in God's presence now. And that God, as it were, is standing with us in our liturgy, in our world, in our hearts. This is part of what Advent is all about. Little bit of history, because it's so interesting. In the first few centuries as Advent developed, there were actually two different traditions. Say around the time of the 6th century in Rome, Advent, as we think of it now, was a time of preparing for Christmas. The liturgy, the preparation, and then Pope Gregory the Great writing some beautiful liturgical texts for Advent. But actually, the earlier tradition of Advent began in the 4th, 5th centuries in Spain and France and spread to England, and it wasn't a preparation for Christmas, it was a preparation for the feast day of the Epiphany, just after Christmas, because the Epiphany in these countries was a time when baptisms took place. So just like in Lent we prepare for the baptisms at Easter, in Advent, in this western part of Europe, they prepared for the baptisms at Epiphany, and eventually it became 40 days, beginning on St. Martin's Day, the 11th of November, an important feast in France. So this was called St. Martin's Lent. This was the first title for Advent. And both of these merged so that we have a sense of preparing for Christmas, remembering the great liturgy of Christmas, but also preparing in a slightly penitential way for the coming of Jesus in so many different ways that we celebrate at the Epiphany. There are two sides, I think, to the mood of Advent and to the way it impacts on us. On the one hand, there's something very reassuring, consoling about this time, because it's about God's promise to be with us. The gospel story today, the Master is coming home. It's a promise. We don't have to worry. He is definitely coming. Whatever difficulties we're having in our world, in our community, in our church, in our own individual lives, he's coming. He hasn't forgotten us. And whatever you are experiencing, however dark and difficult, and however abandoned you feel, and however much you feel he's forgotten me, it's not true. He's coming. He's promised. This is the reassuring side of Advent. But the flip side, the knowledge that he's coming, it raises some questions, hopefully, like, am I ready? Am I ready to meet him? If he did come now in all his glory and stand before me in my real life, yes, here at church on Sunday morning, but when I leave to go for lunch, on the bus home, in my studies, in my library, in my lab, in the pub, in my bedroom, when I go back to see my family, in my real life, if Jesus stood before me, am I ready to meet him? Am I willing to show my life to him and to share it with him? It's not just about being ready either. The gospel is simply about being awake. The worrying image from the gospel is that the master might come back and I might completely miss him. Not that I'm going to get a harsh judgment, I might just miss him because I'm asleep, or I'm caught up in my own things, or I'm just not interested. Now, this is a horrible thing to admit, but I think that for many of us, including myself sometimes, if you knocked on the door and said, "Hey, Stephen, Jesus is here," I would say, almost without realising it, "Can you ask him to come back a bit later, please? When I have more time, when I've finished what I'm doing, when I am ready in an hour or a day or 10 years. Come back later." And so Advent is about realising that the come back later sign is on our doors. And instead of being frightened or panicked, just turning it round and saying, "I'm in. I'm here. I want to meet you. I'm delighted to know that you're coming back soon, and I'm ready." How can we stay awake? Well, just very simple advice here for the next 4 weeks of Advent. Very simple thoughts, and I'm not even going to explain them, but just throw them at you like little seeds. This Advent, before Christmas, let's all of us go to confession. There is no better way of preparing for Christmas and preparing to meet the Lord than going to confession, the fact of going, but what that does to us because we have to prepare to go to confession and we have to look at our lives. It is such a grace, and there are so many little things, sometimes big, that hold us back. And not to talk about them and analyse them now, but just to encourage you all, go to confession. All of us, myself, priests, lay people. Just have a little bit of prayer each day. Just go to the 5-minute plan B, okay? So we'd all like to have a wonderful routine and to come to church and etc. and have hours and hours and rosaries and readings. But just, if that's not happening this Advent, just do the 5-minute thing. A time of preparation, just 5 minutes in the morning or the evening, just so that I have opened my heart to the Lord and I've had at least a little bit of prayer this time. If you're not sure what to do, where to start, why not look at the Advent readings that we have during Mass each day? You can find them on the internet, you can find them in the Missal, in the lectionary, and it's a great way to prepare for Christmas to look at those readings. And just a last little suggestion, because we want to meet the Lord and we want to be ready for him. Some of you are in the habit of coming to weekday Mass, just sometime. So if you're not in that habit, why not think about coming to weekday Mass once during each of these 4 weeks? Just to think, oh, can I come on Thursday or Tuesday or whenever? And if you can't come to Newman House, can you go to the church near your college? Very simple, just another way of stopping and being with the Lord, having some time with him, and just lifting our hearts and our heads as we prepare for Advent. So we've lit the first candle of the wreath. And another beautiful symbol here to finish with, that as the days get darker during winter, these next 4 weeks, the light gets brighter and the fire gets stronger. So Advent is not, finally, about what we are doing. It's about what the Lord is doing. He is becoming more and more present. This is what we're celebrating. His light is burning more and more brightly. Once in my life, and I was dying to do it as a teenager, but I never had the nerve. Once in my life have I set off a fire extinguisher. It was the priest's worst nightmare, and thank God it didn't happen in my church. I was visiting a friend, I won't say where. It was actually just after Christmas, it was in Christmas time. And as we were in the sacristy after Mass, I heard a crackling and I smelt a horrible smell. And I rushed back into the sanctuary and the whole of the Advent wreath was on fire. I don't mean the candles, I mean this massive, humongous display of flowers and berries and ribbons. It was alight and it was in danger of lighting the altar cloth and the whole of the church. So I rushed heroically back into the sacristy and I pulled that little tag that I've been dying to pull for 40 years, and rushed into the sanctuary and sprayed the whole sanctuary. And he kind of thanked me for it, but then he said, now I've got to fill in a health and safety report. Anyway, I saved his life and his church. But look, I wouldn't wish this on anyone. And actually, I asked this wreath to be built below the candles. Do you see this? It's very cleverly designed, this wreath next to me. But isn't it an interesting symbol of the fire and the light reaching beyond the safety of the liturgical symbols into reality? And this just reminds us that Advent is not just about liturgy, it's about life. It's about our life as a church. It's about my life and yours and our community and the whole world. It is about the beauty and the danger of Christ's presence among us. Are we ready? Do we want to keep it on the Advent wreath, or do we want to let it touch our real lives?